Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Aaliyah Savannah, and I am a child of God now. I used to be very much outside doing God knows what most of the time, and now I'm with God. I've been baptized for a year now, over a year now, and God's telling me it's time to share my testimony in a bigger scale than I thought He would, bigger platform, bigger stage, whatever. And yeah, let's just get into it. So my testimony starts when I am 8 years old, 7 years old. We moved from the Bahamas to Canada, and my dad didn't come with us, and that broke me. I was a daddy's girl, and the thought of my dad not being there, not even the thought, like the actual experience of him not being there was very difficult for me. And I was very angry and bitter about it for majority of my life. Right. So then also in my childhood, I faced some sexual abuse. Thank God it wasn't a ongoing abuse, but I did face abuse, sexual abuse, and it did open a door into my life for sexual sin to come in. So yeah, there's that. And then I don't know, it's so hard to tell your testimony. I don't know why it's so hard to just share certain things, but I'm going to push past it. If I look really emotional, just know I've actually grown a lot past these things, and they don't have the same effect on me that they used to. So, anyways, on to the next part. Um, we're in Canada, and God takes care of us, and we end up in Ontario. We were first in Montreal, but God moves us to Ontario, and we have a big Haitian population there, so we were a part of a Haitian church. I've been going to church my whole life. Both my parents are Christian. I've been going to church my whole life, literally. Like, I don't remember a time that I didn't go to church. I've been going to church before I even knew what church was. So I'm very involved in my church, and yeah, I was at every church barbecue, every church conference. I used to sing lead in choir sometimes. It was a very small church. So, small church life, you literally are like my sister was, what's it called? She was, I forgot the name, choir director, but also part of the youth group committee and so many different things, like small church vibes. If you know, you know. And yeah, like I was very heavily involved in church, and I accept Christ many times during, congregation, like altar calls, like, oh, you don't have to come to the altar, but if you want to accept Jesus Christ from where you're standing, you can. And I've done that. I have actually accepted Christ many times, genuinely, but I still wanted to live the life I was living. So in my childhood, the life that I was living, essentially, I wanted to live the life I was living. The life I was living that nobody knew behind the scenes was I was addicted to pornography since the age of 10, and I was introduced to it in middle school, right? And I just feel like that opened a door in my life that was so demonic. Like I was hooked. I was like hooked. And I think it was mostly because I was so broken and I wasn't a kid who expressed themselves much. So a lot of the times when it was time to just talk about your feelings or like be expressive, I would hide it and then secretly be watching porn at night or during the day when nobody's around or things of that sort. And it was killing me. It was killing me. Oh my God, it was killing me. And that goes on up until honestly, like being a year ago. Like I didn't get freed and delivered from that until I was 21. Yeah. So that was like a big thing for me. Um, I was always hiding. Like I would, I've gotten caught. Siblings, a sibling, but they never told on me, and other siblings would be a little bit suspicious of me. Yeah, it was bad. Like I was really hooked to that stuff, genuinely, and I thank God for deliverance. But yeah, so that was open door in my life. So then when I moved and I went to university somewhere else, like I moved to Toronto from Niagara, and I'm out on my own and I can do whatever I want. There's nobody watching me. I could come home at midnight, nobody would know. I could do whatever I want. And it quickly clicked in my mind that I could do whatever I want. So I actually started to do whatever I want. In my first year, up in the first year that I was here, like I was actually involved in church things. I was a part of a church, Christian communities. I was a part of a Christian church on campus, and um, all heck broke loose when I got offended. I remember I was wearing a shirt, and somebody that actually introduced me to the church on campus pulled up my shirt and basically was trying to tell me to cover up. And oh, that made me so angry. Like, it made me so angry. And I felt like she was pushing God on me. Like it was, I don't know what style of Christianity style denomination. I don't know what denomination the church was, but it was very much like I was wearing a shirt that was kind of like this. You didn't really see anything, but she was pulling up my shirt like I was showing too much, and it really offended me. And I immediately cut her off, and I immediately cut off church people. I was like, I'm not doing this. And yeah, while that's going on, keep in mind I'm still watching pornography. And then um, what happened next? Yeah, after that, all hell broke loose. I officially, I finally watched. I finally lost my virginity, and that was, yeah, it just opened the door to a lot more sexual sin for me. Because then I was like, I don't have to just do this with one person. I can do this with multiple people, not at the same time. I don't mean at the same time. I just mean like I can have multiple partners or whatever. And the next person I had sex with actually sexually assaulted me. So that was very traumatic. And for the summer after that, I was very broken. That was the summer of 2020. Broken, like I would literally just lay in bed and just want to like cry until I couldn't cry anymore. And I was living with my family that summer, so I couldn't do that, but that's really what I wanted to do. So that was hard. There was a lot of like numbing myself. And then school starts up in September 2020. There's more things opening up. And my best friend moves to Toronto, and my other friends here. So even though should be in quarantine, we're outside all the time. We're doing whatever we want. And yeah, I got Tinder. I was seeing so many different guys doing some different things. You know, it wasn't good. And then December comes around and I meet this guy. And this guy is my age. but he comes from a very wealthy family. I'm a girl who I didn't grow up in like poverty. Like I didn't grow up with like not having clothes or not having food to eat, but I grew up very like I couldn't get the things that I wanted. So like I got what I need. I didn't get what I wanted. So I meet this guy and on my the day after my birthday, and he tells me that he's gonna give me a gift. And I'm like, bet. I'm a little confused why he would want to buy me anything, but I'm like, why not? So we end up meeting, and I kid you not, the first day I met him, I could hear the most audible voice telling me, block him, do not talk to him, stay away from him. But I was a very stubborn, hard headed, wanted to learn for myself type person at that point. So then I don't cut this person off, but God keeps showing me signs. Like, He kept showing me different things. Like, the guy himself would say certain things that were major red flags. And I would defend him and I would just be like, oh, that's not true, or whatever it may be, whatever like the red flag was, I would kind of like make an excuse for him. And like we would both agree on the excuse. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah, God was really trying to get me away from this person. And I was doing whatever I want. So what kept me with this person started off with money. They were giving me money. Within probably 3 weeks of knowing this person, they gave me a Balenciaga sweater. Like, I'm getting all these expensive things. You're giving me money. Like, why not? And you're not really, it's not like I'm prostituting myself to you. And at that point, it's not like I'm having sex with you. So it was like, whatever. Like, it was great. And because this person was giving me so much money, when they asked me for money, it was whatever. I'm like, they always give me money. I can give them money too. So, and, and even when I would give them money, they would give it back, or like literally a couple of days later. So it was whatever. It was cool. I thought we were cool. And then one time I sent a really big amount and things switched. I needed the money back. And the days kept going and I wasn't getting it. And I knew they had it. It wasn't like they didn't have the money to give. They came from a very wealthy family, right? And when they were asking me to give them money, it was like they spent their allowance and they need a little bit more for whatever they needed to do. And anyways, I gave them this a large amount of money and they didn't give it back. A month went by, 2 months went by. They weren't giving it back. They were honestly using the money to keep me around because at that time I was talking to so many other guys. I was focused on school and so many other things. I didn't really like him like that. I liked his money, but I didn't like him. And through loving money, I put myself in a very, very dangerous situation. So basically, every day I'd be like, okay, like, can I have the money back? And then some days they'd send a little bit of it back, and the other days they'd distract me. They'd be like, oh, so and so has weed for you. Um, are you hungry? It would just be like always finding another way to keep me occupied or thinking about something else. Like, this individual kept me not sober so that I wouldn't leave because as soon as I got the money back, they knew that I would leave. So then, you know, I'm fighting for it back. I'm losing my mind. I'm crying. I need that money back. I'm a student. I'm not rich. Like, you know what I mean? And yeah, they don't give it back for a while. I think it goes on 5 months, just fighting back and forth with this individual. And during that time, I was getting really sick. My body was just not feeling good. I had a lot of anxiety and I was very depressed. I would be eating and crying. I literally was dealing with like severe constipation. There would be days where I literally couldn't pee. And I realized I was dealing with a narcissist because every day this person was arguing with me, yelling at me, calling me names, and then telling me they're not saying this, they're saying that, and like if I gave them a compliment, the compliment became an insult somehow, and it was just like every day was a fight, and I was so drained, like so drained. And God was so good to me because it came time where I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna have to tell my parents, or I'm gonna have to find a way to get this money back because I need to pay rent and I need to eat and like other things. And yeah, and God was really trying to protect me, trying to save me so much because leading up to the day that this person rapes me, I have dreams about it every night. Like God was showing me the next time I see him, he's going to sexually assault me. Like God did not hide that from me. I dreamt about it every night up until the day it happened. And even on the day I was on the way to his house, I felt like my mind was blank. I completely forgot about the dream that I was having every single night of it happening. And I just remember being in the Uber on the way to their house and I couldn't breathe. Like I had so much anxiety. I felt sick. Like I felt so sick. And I should mention the reason I was on the way to this person's house was because they were finally going to give me the full amount. They sent me a picture. They're like, okay, like I have the full amount. Come get it. I'm tired of you blowing up my phone. So I go over to their house and they drug me and they sexually assault me. And thank God that that didn't kill me, or that he didn't kill me, and that that situation didn't break me. Didn't, what's the word? Do I mean break me? Like it broke me, yes, it caused pain, but I'm still here, so it didn't break me, if that makes sense. So yeah, I leave their house. I completely cut this person off. And here comes God again, so kind to me. He literally sends my friend to give me the amount that I was literally fighting this guy to get back. And after that, I literally am so depressed. I cry every night. I sometimes I can eat, sometimes I can't eat. I'm smoking more. It hurts when I sit down. Like my body hurts when I sit down. And I was honestly going through it. I was going through so much. Looking back, I don't know how I survived that, honestly, because the the verbal abuse was already bad. And then I don't know if the timelines made sense to you guys, but I was already sexually abused in March of 2020. And then I'm sexually abused 8 months later. Like, I didn't get time to heal from the first one. And then another one happened. And then I'm just hiding it from my family. I don't want to tell them. I don't want to deal with it. But I knew that I couldn't just cope by myself. But I don't know why my first thought wasn't to go to God. But I decided to go to therapy, and I had a therapist, and she helped a lot. And I spent the summer away from my family because I didn't want to tell them. I didn't want to deal with the questions, um, maybe being blamed for what happened to me. I don't know. All sorts of thoughts were running through my mind of like what really could have happened when I tell them. So I just didn't. I didn't want to. And that summer, I tried to work, and I can't. And I got a job anyways. And thank you, Lord, that He spoke to me. He always spoke to me. God always spoke to me. He was so good to me. Thank you, Lord. He spoke to me in I literally the most audible voice, and he told me I don't need to work. He'll take care of me. So that summer, even though I wasn't with Christ, even though I didn't have a relationship with me, I always had money. Like I was never lacking. There was nothing I needed that I didn't have. Like I had food, I had clothes. The rent was always paid. Like God really took care of me, and I'm so grateful to Him for that. Like taking care of someone who doesn't even pray to you in the morning, just prays to you at night because that's just a habit. Someone who doesn't obey you, you know what I mean? I went through a lot, and I didn't run to God. I ran through worldly ways of coping and dealing with things. So I'm smoking more, drinking more, and at this point, I have a new crowd of people that I'm around. So I'm going to the club, I'm at house parties, drunk, I'm drinking Red Bull with alcohol, which is so crazy. But like, I was just doing things that the world calls having fun. And at first, I was having fun, and then I wasn't having fun. If that makes sense. I wasn't having that much fun. Like at first, it felt like, oh, this is something new. This is a distraction of all the trauma I faced. Like I'm at these parties, I'm at these events, and I'm not thinking about everything that I have to think about when I go home until I'm doing this more and I'm like, I actually don't like this either. And every time I'm in these environments, I'm meeting more men. I'm having more useless, meaningless texts. I'm watching more pornography. There's more hypersexuality in my life. There's more of all types of sin. And it was a cycle. I was stuck in that cycle for like 3 years. So from like 2020 to 2023, I was just in a mess. And my birthday is, I'm a 2001 baby, and my birthday is in December, so I turned 21 in, I turned 21 in 2022. LOL. Yeah, anyways, so years go by, I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still going to school. I'm doing pretty okay in my classes, and I'm partying, I'm drinking, I'm smoking, I'm doing whatever. And so my 21st birthday comes around in 2022, and I fall out with basically all of my friends except for my two friends that I had from Niagara. Well, it wasn't really a falling out. I just decided, you know what? I don't really want to be friends. Or I don't really, with certain people, I said I didn't want to be their friend, and other people, I was just like, I just need space from you. So 2022 in December, after my birthday, I was like, I'm going to be different. I'm going to be celibate. I'm going to get baptized soon. I'm not going to live the way that I'm living. And I genuinely was celibate and I genuinely was like seeing a change. Things were getting different until until I met another guy. And this guy, I just liked him so much. Like I just liked him so much. And he wasn't perfect and he was showing me that from the beginning, but I just liked him so much. It was driving me crazy. Like I made this man an idol. This man was an idol. I was just so obsessed with him. And like in my head, I had to be with him. And I think it was mostly because this guy felt different than the other guys in the sense that he went to church, right? But he went to church, but he's the reason I broke my celibacy. Well, yes, I had a choice, but he was part of church and all these things, but he was living a lukewarm life, and I'm not that part of, I'm not going to church at this point. I don't even consider myself a Christian at this point. Not that I was just saying I believe in God. And yeah, I, I, I wanted to go back to church, so I started going to his church, and I was learning new things. When I would be at church, the sermon would like really hit me, and I would really feel like God was speaking to me. And yeah, but the thing was, I got away from my old friends and met him and made new friends, and I ended up right back in the club, smoking, drinking again. So I don't know. Part of me couldn't take church that seriously because I just felt like I'm seeing someone who's sole part of ministry and they're in the club with me, they're sexually active with me. I'm with their friends who also are heavily involved in the church and they are smoking, drinking, doing the same things we're doing. So I just felt like I had like a bad representation of what it really meant to be a Christian and what it really meant to come to Christ. And God was, again, you're going to hear me say this multiple times. God was so good to me. He did not let that relationship last, but He did let me hear the necessary things and go through the necessary pain. I know a lot of girls are going to relate to what I say, but relate to this part of what I say where I'm like, my heart being broken pushed me closer to God. I, I felt so sick. Like that heartbreak, that separation from that person made me so, so sad. Like, you know, when you get so sad after things go bad with a guy, that you start going to the gym, you're like, no, I have to prove him wrong. Like, I have to get hotter. I have to get prettier. I have to make up. Like, I have to do something. Like, this person has to regret this. So that's what I did. All of the beginning half, like up until April of 2023, I was just in the, more like June, I was in the gym. I didn't go to the club. I didn't, I wasn't having sex. I was celibate. And literally, I was just to myself because I needed, in my head, I had to pop out and be this different person and be this person that he should regret that he left, which was so delusional because it's just, y'all get it. And yeah, summer came around and I felt like my hottest self. I felt like the most confident I've ever felt. Like my confidence has went like before Christ, my confidence has always been low, self-esteem low, everything low. But at that point, it was medium. I'm like, okay, like I'm very pretty, I'm very attractive, my body's nice. I was going to the gym like crazy, my body's tea. So I'm like, life is up, but it's really not because behind the scenes, still watching pornography. I start cutting myself. I'm Like at that point, I stopped smoking, but I would still drink. I would come home and I would drink like a whole bottle of Jacob's Creek. Like it wasn't like an everyday thing, but like if I went and I got like some wine, just know that bottle was getting finished in one sitting in one day. And honestly, that whole summer went by, and I don't know, I was different. Something was different. There was like a new open door in my life. It was like a new, it was a new level of demonic that I touched, if that makes sense. Because I just remember I didn't really like looking myself in the eye. I didn't like looking myself in the eye. I didn't like how my eyes looked. There was just something behind my eyes, and even I knew it. There was just something different about me. There's just something that wasn't Aaliyah. And yeah, it was quite serious, and I noticed it. I had a very people say it's in my eyes. They're like, oh, like you can, like, you're so sexy. You pull with your eyes, like something in your eyes. I'm like, looking back, I'm like, that was just a spirit. I just had a very lustful spirit and was drawing people in. And yeah, I had a lot of soul ties. I had a lot of soul ties. And what really like pushed me to start going to church again was when my therapist broke up with me. My therapist broke up with me because she just felt like I wasn't going to get better. She told me verbatim, I don't think you're going to get better. You don't do any of the things that I'm telling you to do. You don't want to do any of the things I'm telling you to do. You don't want to actually put in the work to get better. And the thing was, I just didn't like her approaches to try and help me get better because I just don't think those approaches to getting better were effective for me. So I would start and I just randomly stop because it's not working. So why would I keep, doing something if it's not working, right? And we break up. My heart grieved, grieved. Like that was painful. It was so painful. Oh my God, that was the end of summer 2023. It was so painful. Like I can't even imagine going through that pain again. Having the person that you were telling all your trauma to, who's supposed to help you and supposed to tell you like you can do this and all these things, is like telling me I don't think you're ever gonna get better. So I'm like, dang, she's right. After all the trauma, I'm cutting myself, I'm drinking, I'm fornicating, I'm angry, I'm a liar, I'm all sorts of things. So it's just like she's right. I'm not gonna get better. And I was like, you know what? I don't really have anything to lose. So I started going to church. Yeah, I started going to church. A friend, I met a friend earlier in 2023 and we went to church together a couple times. And I remember the church that she brought me to and I liked it. So I was like, let me just start going here. So I was literally showing up um, as I am. I would go to the club and I would still go to church the next day. Yeah, went up to church, not sober, kind of drunk, And I was like, at least I went to church. And I remember this one day where this Christian rapper was there and he performed his song. And I don't know why that song just touched me. It was, I don't know, something about the song. I can literally hear it playing in my head. I don't want to sing it out loud. I don't want to get copyrighted. No, I'm joking. But yeah, the song, I don't know, touches my heart. Something about the song just makes me like, okay, I have to live different. Like, I know God is real. I've experienced God in my childhood. Nobody can tell me God's not real. I just don't want to. I just like up until after um, having my therapist break up with me, I didn't want to change. I didn't want to live different. I didn't want to do things differently, but I wanted a relationship with God. But like, how do you do both? Like, do whatever you want to do and be like, I have a relationship with God. Like, it's not possible, right? So I hear the song and they start talking about a retreat at the church called The Weekend. And I signed up that day. And then as soon as I signed up, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go. And I was experiencing major spiritual warfare leading up to the retreat. So this is September, please remember that. And the retreat is the weekend of Halloween. So yeah, I start having really demonic dreams. I'm having dreams where literally like something is like choking me or something is like sitting on me and I'm seeing crazy things. I'm having weird experiences. Like I'm going through weird stuff. Like I couldn't explain it. Certain things that were happening around me, I was like, what was that? Like what? And lucky for me, even though I was starting to be like, I don't want to go, my outlet leader, so the leader of my small group, wasn't having it. She picked me up. Oh, I should mention that I also joined the small group the same day I signed up for the retreat. And my small group leader, shout out Ange, I love you, Ange. I love you, Ange. And she literally picked me up for the retreat, and I go to the retreat, and my life changed. Literally, my life changed. Like at the retreat, when I went, there was a session where um, we are just grieving the fact that we didn't have our father in our life. Like we were at the retreat, there was a session for grieving about your relationship with your earthly father. So like everyone, they were just talking about how your relationship with your earthly father affects your relationship with God, your heavenly father, right? And I just remember how the session went. I can't remember in crazy detail, but I just remember um, people were just crying. And I just remember crying so much. You know, my dad wasn't in my life physically present from age 8 to 16. When I was 16, he came back into our lives and, you know, he moved to Canada and he was with us. So I spent a good 8 years, 9 years. I think I was 7 when we moved. I spent a good 9 years, 8 years with just having a mom, and my mom was my mom and my dad. So my dad was back in my life, but I didn't know him. I didn't like him. I didn't want him around. I did not want any affection from him. I was not his little girl. That man was just a man who did not come with us to Canada for whatever reason. I don't really want to get into the reason, to be honest. And what else? I just remember at the retreat, people were crying around me, right? And I just remember bawling. I'm at the retreat and I'm just crying. Like in that moment, like I always knew, but in that moment, I realized that all the like all the situationships, all the trying to get into a relationship, all the sex and all that stuff was literally because I just wanted a man to look at me and to see me and to accept me. I just wanted like I don't know, I just had daddy issues. That's what I had. I just had daddy issues. And you know, people like to throw that around as like a insult, but that stuff is real. Like not having your father around for a child, like as a child, not having your father around, whether you're a girl or a boy, it has a real effect on you. Like it has real, like real effects on you. And I just remember I was crying. I was crying so much. And the pastor and all like the spiritual guides were there and they were like giving out hugs. And for me, like my pastor gave me a hug. And I just remember like feeling like all that anger, bitterness, and pain like kind of dissipated. Like in that moment, I just felt like it was God hugging me. It wasn't even the pastor. It was like God was hugging me, honestly, and was like telling me it's okay. And that was like a real breakthrough that I needed. And then later in the retreat, I there was a session about talking about relationships, and during that session, um, I just remember like I was really listening to the leader and the person speaking, the leader speaking, and I just remember everything they were saying, like it was resonating so much. And I was just looking them in the eye, and I know I was catching their eye, and I know something about me stood out to them. And yeah, like after that session, I went and talked to them, and thank God I did, because the conversation, um, I revealed things that I've been hiding my whole life. Like up until um, that person, like nobody who wasn't also doing what I was doing knew what I was doing, if that makes sense. Like if you like my friends that were watching pornography knew I was watching, but if you weren't watching, I wasn't gonna tell you, if that makes sense, right? And things like that. So I tell this person like, oh, this is what I've been doing and whatnot. And they're listening to me, and some they make a face and they gasp, and I'm like, no, that's weird. And I'm like, okay. And then there's the last session. Well, not the last session, the last session for the day. And, they're putting out carpet. I didn't grow up in a church where there was like deliverance, like people actually being freed from demonic spirits and things of that sort. So when the carpet was putting out, I didn't really know what they were doing, right? So to me, like it was just like, oh, they're putting out carpet. I wonder why they're putting out carpet. But I remember something in me was so scared. Like inside, my heart was racing. My heart was racing. Something was happening to me, and I didn't know what it was. But, you know, after this conversation, like after that conversation, yeah, my heart's racing, all these things. And the first day we came, we filled out a checklist of things that we were doing, sins that we were participating in. There was like there was a category for like witchcraft and new age and like those types of things. There was a category for sexual sin. It was kind of like a Rit scale. Anyways, anyways, there was like we filled okay. So on the first day we filled out a paper, and on the paper was like a bunch of things. It was a bunch of different categories, and under them you were to check out the types of things that you participated in, right? So I forgot mine in the cabin because this was held in a cabin, right? So not a cabin, a what's the word? Like a retreat site. We were in the woods. We were in the middle of the woods. So I had to go back to my cabin, come back, and the pastor's praying. Everyone's praying. Music is playing. We're worshiping, and he's just like, if you feel like you're gonna fall, just fall. And I'm like, what? I've never experienced none of this. What do you mean just fall? My heart is still racing. I'm still so anxious. And people start falling, and people are literally actively going through deliverance in front of me. And the person that I talked to previously came up to me and they were praying over me. And it started clicking in my head that like whatever these people are going through on the ground, I'm about to go through this. So I'm dealing with a very big spirit of fear. I'm dealing with so much fear, right? So to me, I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna like just let this happen. In a weird way, it was kind of like these people look like they're in so much pain. Like whatever's in, maybe I should just stay in. But a part of me was like, no, like I need deliverance. Something needs to come out because I feel it. Because I would close my eyes and I would see the ground, like the ground crumbling, like just falling underneath me. Like I was falling into like a deep hole in an abyss. And this person was praying over me and nothing was coming out. And they were like, you're going to have to decide if it's coming out or not, because it was me who was kind of like, no, in a way. I don't know how to explain that. And I went to the pastor and I was just like, I'm just so afraid. Like, I'm just so scared. And he was like, you're afraid? And I'm like, yeah. And he was like, okay, just wait. So he was praying with other people and over other people, and other people are getting delivered. And all of nowhere, he comes and he puts his hand on my head, and I immediately fall.